Hello, I'm Mantastic'c and Fantastic, and today I'm going to be talking about the Hello Kitty collab that has returned once again to North America. So it has been quite some years since the last iteration of this event, and as a result, basically all the cards have received various buffs or possibly new evolutions, along with new kitties to possibly chase. And for the most part, this collab is going to be great for players who like to farm content as efficiently as possible. It's not going to be great if you're trying to clear like the newest, hardest endgame content such as like Shura 2 Plus or any of the MD dungeons or even Valkyrie Seal. Point of the matter is, if you like to farm stuff, this is a great place to pick up various cards because many of them feature multiple dungeon bonus awakenings. And these dungeon bonus awakenings grant either an increased chance of getting drops or like the drop values are higher, such as like monster experience, in-game experience, coins, whatever it may be. Point is, you can bolster the drop rates or chances and in turn make it easier to farm content. That means you can play on a lower difficulty level, which saves stamina, which also means you can possibly button and or swipe relatively mindlessly. So if any of that sounds appealing for yourself, several of these cards here will be meaningful. And at the same time, all the top rarity cards can be at least monster exchanged for. So if there's a particular card that you truly want to acquire, doing so should be relatively affordable because it only costs 5 6-star Godfest exclusives as trade fodder, not 7 stars, which is going to be a great breath of relief because 6-star Godfest exclusives tend to be relatively common. Gung-Ho has given them out somewhat like candy, relatively speaking. Unfortunately, the bottom rarity is not exactly what we want them to be. If we take a look at all the bottom rarity cards, I don't feel like they're that particularly great. Yes, they do have weapon assists, all of the cards, but the weapon assists are quite underwhelming. It's kind of like I would pick this weapon if I had absolutely nothing better to choose in my monster box. And then despite Gudtama being quite a strong card, they are an orb skin, which means they don't have the same rolling rates as a regular 5-star card. So it's kind of misleading. They're not really a 5-star in my head, mostly because the rolling rates are just going to be much lower due to their orb skin nature. So if we take a look at the overall rankings overall, we can see that there are 2 7-stars topping the charts, and those are only going to be useful if you play in solo mode and you can leverage those dungeon bonus awakenings because, again, being able to have more dungeon bonus awakenings increases the efficiency in which you farm content. But these awakenings are not going to be available if you play in co-op mode. So again, if you are, say, have 2 accounts, you play for yourself on a regular basis, this may not necessarily have that much value for yourself. And in all honesty, I feel like this is definitely either a Monster Exchange and Skip collab or just a pure Skip collab, depending on what you want to build for your individual box. So with that in mind, I'm going to take a look at all of the highly notable cards to give you an idea of what you can possibly expect. So for Saline Kitty is going to be one of the most desirable cards in this event because of her proficiency in farming training Arena 3. So if we look at her awakening, she's got a 10 and a 7 combo, which means she can do large amounts of damage. She has 2 dungeon bonus awakenings, which makes a big difference because you're able to potentially, with enough Saline Kitties, swipe your way through TA3, and with all the dungeon bonus awakenings, actually level up a card much more efficiently, which in turn can save you an entire run, which saves stamina. The point is you are basically trying to make your life as easy as possible because we look at their active skill, they give you a single turn of haste, which is great for helping you system active skills, and it changed the top and bottom row to light orbs. So you immediately have 2 light rows formed, and if you look at the leader skill, you just need to match 6 or more connected light orbs along with 2 light combos. Doing so will unlock their full bonus combo multiplier and their full attack multiplier, which means dual Saline Kitties can swipe the 2 rows and guarantee themselves 10 combos. It's kind of ridiculous if you really think about it, but it's what is going to work. And those enhanced light combo awakenings bolster the damage. And in fact, making a team of a bunch of Saline Kitties with the dungeon bonus awakening and like Gudtamas and or other row assists with the dungeon double cap unlock will let you swipe TA3 with relative ease. I have a video on my YouTube channel just showcasing Melvin swiping through with basically no effort. You can farm TA3 so easily if you have enough Saline Kitties and light row awakenings to slap on as inherits. And make sure you do use that attack badge to help ensure everything does actually die. Point of the matter is, if you have the trade fodder or you're just incredibly lucky rolling, you can make what is arguably the easiest and possibly fastest team we have currently available. And remember, these dungeon bonus awakenings will provide significant extra zest overall because each one does have 2. So if that sounds appealing, great, that's wonderful. But the problem is Saline Kitty just doesn't really do that much unless you have lots of duplicates, because this system only truly works if you have enough saline kitties. I'm confident you can find workarounds if you have less saline kitties, but it's going to break that whole mindlessness aspect. You're going to have other solutions. You might have to combo more. You might have to do other things. Point is, she really only is absolutely truly spectacular, I feel, if you have lots of duplicates, which is really just not applicable for the average player. Like, it's just going to require too much trade fodder. If I look at my own monster box, I don't have that much trade fodder. I can get maybe 1, maybe 2 without like hurting too much, so to speak. But then I think my 3rd, 4th copies would probably start eating into like my single copies, and I don't want to like just get rid of my only copy of a given card. So it's great and all, but at the same time, you're just saving time and some, I guess, brain cells required to play. If you can play through the dungeon, you have other TA3 teams, they're probably going to be a bit slower, they're probably going to require a bit more effort, but at the end of the day, you do at least get to clear the dungeon. Yes, the dungeon bonuses are missing, so you technically are less stamina efficient, but at the same time, it comes down to what can you actually afford. Next is Varroa Kitty, and Varroa Kitty is going to be the best farming solution for solo mode because of her leader skill and 3 dungeon bonus awakenings. She also has a 3 turn based cooldown, which means you can easily inherit a button style active skill or something, or whatever you need to have inherited over top, and it makes life much easier. And the reason why she's going to be so valuable is because her leader skill gives you 1.3 times egg drop rate, which is the same as Varroa. And the main reason why you want to actually utilize these types of leader skills is because it lets you play on lower difficulty, such as intermediate with double Varroa or Varroa Kitties in this case, and you're able to spend less stamina. You can most likely button your way through it, which in turn saves time, and you're able to acquire the event medal tokens much more easily. You have a higher chance of any of them dropping. It doesn't improve the quality of a drop, it just improves the chance of anything dropping. So the idea is you can play on the lowest difficulty, button your way through, have the dungeon bonuses give you a higher drop chance, the leader skill gives you a higher drop chance, populate your team with a bunch of dungeon boost cards, and you're just going to have a merry good time because you're becoming incredibly stamina and time efficient. Furthermore, if we take a look at their leader skill, dual Varroa Kitty leaders gives you 1 million auto follow attack for making 1 or more combos. It's as easy as you can really get. So if you didn't have enough buttons around, or the dungeon is just longer than, say, 6 floors, because 6 buttons, 6 cards, you can just make a single combo and auto follow up your attack your way to victory. Point is, it's going to make your life much easier, much more efficient, but at the same time, if you acquire your event medal tokens via 2-player co-op, this has no value because the egg drop bonuses only take part in solo mode. Same with these dungeon boost awakenings. So I honestly feel like picking up one of these cards, if you do not actually play co-op, is meaningful because you're going to have a much better time moving forward. And I honestly don't feel like this is going to be like power crept anytime soon. They've got, unless something is released with a better leader skill, which doesn't seem like it's going to happen anytime soon, nothing's going to surpass the 3 dungeon bonus awakenings alongside and the low base cooldown. So if you're only going to be able to make 1 trade for one of these kitties, picking up Varroa Kitty is going to be incredibly beneficial to your box, especially if you don't own a Varroa already, or I think Knight maybe is the Gung Ho collab card. I think it is. There's one other card who can boost the drop rates, maybe another one. Point of the matter is, if you don't have any of those boosting cards, this is going to be a significant and meaningful trade for you to actually do. If we look at Medu, Reach, and Zila kitties, they all are useful because they do provide 3 dungeon bonus awakenings in their base forms, and they have a lower cooldown compared to Greed Dragon. Greed Dragon has been, at least up until this point, one of the more commonly used dungeon bonus cards, just because it has 3 of them, and a lot of people did roll in that event quite heavily, and there's a good chance you've picked up at least 1, maybe 2 copies of Greed. So these kitties here, they are useful. I don't think they're worth trading for because they don't have enough value elsewhere. They don't give you that extra zest like Varroa or Sailing Kitty, but if you do manage to roll them in some way, shape, or form, awesome, you got another 3 dungeon bonus awakening card. If we look at Charmi Kitty, they are going to be one of the most flexible cards in this event, and I gave them an A ranking. You could possibly argue they could be like a lower S tier, and I feel like the value of Charmi Kitty highly depends on your monster box. If you have like a relatively shallow monster box, you don't have too many options available, Charmi Kitty is probably going to be an amazing card to have because they have 6 unique evolution forms, and I'm going to pretty much guarantee you that at least one of those is probably going to be helpful. They're not going to be necessarily the best in slot for a given team when trying to play through, let's say, like Shura Realms or MD, but there's a good chance it's going to be better possibly than other cards you have available. But at the same time, if you have a tremendously deep monster box, it's probably not going to like outpace or replace other options you already have. So just keep that in mind. She is an orb skin, which means you can directly purchase them, which will, again, give you that flexibility. Having 6 forms is great, and there's a good chance it's going to at least keep its value moving forward for at least a reasonably long time, especially, again, if you have a relatively shallow monster box. One thing I want to mention is that none of the forms actually have a VDP awakening. They do have strong offensive awakenings, but no VDP. So unless you have ways to deal with the void mechanic, or like void damage mechanic, they're going to be a little bit of a liability because they do hit hard, but they won't be able to actually deal damage against void spawns. Again, that could be small nitpick. Depending on the type of content you're playing through, this may not have any relevance whatsoever. But just take your time to go through all the evolutions to see if any of them can actually improve your given teams. Like, for instance, the red one has a light sub-attribute, which could be meaningful if you don't have, say, Gung-Ho Lakshmi, Wedding Trelo. You just don't have a good light sub-attribute card for all attributes for fire. Charmi could be meaningful because they have 4 up to 6 skill boosts, lots of time extends, a 10 and double 7 combo awakening, and a 4 cooldown active skill. Yes, their active skill generates fire hearts and jammer, but they also remove all awoken skill binds. But remember, with these low base cooldowns, you are able to inherit something over top of it that will give you extra zest at the beginning of the dungeon. You could inherit like haste, delay. You could inherit a damage absorption cancellation. Whatever you need to have on your given team, these Charmi Kitties give you a great base to actually utilize them. So again, pick up Charmi Kitty if you feel like you can take advantage of their various forms. Again, I don't think they're going to surpass other options currently available if you have lots of things possible. But again, a shallower monster box will derive more value. And remember, they are quite high skill boost cards. So again, transforming with a low cooldown is meaningful. And then finally, the dark version does have 5 attack while below 50% awakenings and 6 skill boosts. So if we do start receiving leaders in the future that need to have leader skill multipliers that want to be below 50% health, Dark Charmi Kitty may end up becoming incredibly powerful because that subcolor coverage gives you a bit more flexibility if you need to have all attributes. 32 times personal damage with minimal effort, high attack set, 4 turn-based cooldown that removes all awoken binds and creates 6 arc orbs with unlock can be amazing. I feel like she could be possibly better than I'm giving her value to, but again, moving forward, having this much flexibility is probably going to be a reasonably safe investment. And then finally, for the 6-star cards that I want to highlight is Valkyrie Seal. And Valkyrie Seal has the potential to be a respectable Daytona sub because she has 6 skill boosts, they have a 10 combo and 3 TPA awakenings along with tape resist. These are all the things that Daytona team wants to have because, again, large amounts of personal damage, the TPAs augment your active skills attack multiplier, and her active skill gives you remove all regular binds, which is probably not going to be helpful because everything should be bind immune. It gives you 50% damage reduction for a single turn, which is meaningful in Shura 2, in Shura 3, because the bosses will have large hits when they go below 50% for the first time, which is meaningful. And then you also bypass attribute absorption for 1 turn. Again, in Shura 2 and 3, there are attribute absorbs that can possibly appear, which could be annoying, but you definitely could one-shot them. So having a single turn, at least in that instance, can be meaningful. Other places, 1 turn may not be sufficient. And as a whole, I think she's a reasonably strong Daytona sub. Just be mindful of the fact that she has quite a low attack stat, which is going to be a bit of a detriment for Daytona teams. They need health quite badly, and having a low health stat is problematic. And not having a unique subcolor doesn't help with team building when you're playing through Shura 3. Obviously, all attribute required dungeons doesn't care, but it's just another small nitpick. And as a whole, she doesn't outpass Dye or Halloween Cotton, but she is still a strong card, and if you are fortunate enough to roll her and have Daytona, it can be meaningful. And then finally, for the 5-star cards that I want to highlight is Gudtama, and in their base form, which is a weapon assist, they have 5 light rows. So for your Saline Kitty teams, if you have the Saline Kitties, maybe picking up a couple of these can be meaningful because you are now able to have a huge amount of passive damage via via the rows that Sailing Kitty automatically generates. At the same time, this weapon assist has a low base cooldown which could jeopardize it overcharging by accident, so just be mindful of where and how you inherit it, trying to leave it unskilled if possible. But at the same time, if you don't feel like you can derive any value from a pure light row weapon assist, their evolved form is meaningful as a cleric. They have 4 skill boosts, they have 2 seconds of orb movement time, they have skill bind resist, they also have a 10 and double 7 combo, so 20 times personal damage is meaningful for your cleric because they have a 10 turn full cleric active skill that removes all bind, awoken bind, and unmatchable, along with generating a row of light orbs while unlocking the board beforehand. So it's never going to be a dead active skill. Even if you don't need the cleric active effect, you at least have an orb generator. And if you need the cleric active effect, you have an orb generator to make your life much happier. With that being said, a 10 turn base cooldown for your cleric can be a little problematic to work with because at least at this point in time when you're playing through the hardest content available, there are multiple instances where you will possibly need to have a cleric active to help you out. And on a 10 turn cooldown, it may be a bit more dangerous to stall. And because of that in mind, one thing you may wish to consider is utilizing another alternative or partial cleric to cover your needs. For instance, let's say you need to have something that could clear unmatchable multiple times. Maybe bring a card that also has an unmatchable clear tied to their active skill. It's not the full cleric that you need to have all the time, but it's a backup to at least ease your constraints. And then one thing I did forget to mention is that they actually have a VDP Super Awakening, so they always will deal meaningful damage against any kind of spawn, whether you're matching regular combos or that 3x3 box. So quite a strong orb skin overall, definitely valuable for the weapon if you have Sailing Kitties, but a strong cleric overall for the most part, as long as you can work around the 10 turn cooldown overall. So, in conclusion, I feel like the Hello Kitty collab is definitely just catered towards players who want to farm stuff more efficiently in solo mode, due to the fact that they have dungeon bonus awakenings and the Varroa style leader skill, which increases the egg drop rate but only works in solo mode. So, for the most part, I am disappointed by the bottom rarity. Like, they just really don't do that much, and these are going to comprise the vast majority of the rolls. The 5-star cards are more than 75%. They're actually 77.5% of the total rolling pool. And aside from Gudtama, I don't think any of them are actually really truly meaningful. So almost 3 out of 4 rolls you will do will be tremendously sad. And with that in mind, it's definitely a much better event to just simply monster exchange and not actually roll in, unless you really like the artwork, you think the kitties are cute, or you're feeling lucky. So that being said, let me know what you think about this event in the comments below. Did you plan to monster exchange or roll? And let me know if you appreciate having like the tier list back, because it's been some time since I've actually utilized one. With that being said, hopefully you all have a truly fantastic day. I wish you all the best luck in your own pad adventures, and happy puzzling.